Once upon a time, in a cozy little cottage nestled at the edge of a sun-dappled forest, lived a little boy named Timmy. Now, Timmy was a wonderful boy. In many ways, he was kind to animals. He loved to draw, and he could tell the funniest jokes. But Timmy had one tiny, little, gigantic problem. He was the messiest eater in the entire world. Every mealtime was like a food tornado had hit the kitchen. Crumbs would fly like confetti. Drops of juice would splatter on the walls, looking like abstract art. The spaghetti would dangle from the chandelier, and peas would roll under the furniture, never to be seen again. Timmy's mom would sigh, "Timmy, please try to be a bit tittier." But Timmy would just giggle, his face covered in chocolate pudding, and say, "But Mom, it's more fun this way." Now, in this very same cottage, leaning quietly in a corner of the kitchen, was an old broom. It wasn't just any old broom, though. This broom had bristles made from the enchanted twigs of a whispering willow and a handle carved from the wood of a stardust oak. It was, in fact, a magical broom. For years, it had patiently swept away Timmy's messes, its magical bristles sighing with each flick and swish. The broom's name was Bristlebert, and he was getting very, very tired. One Tuesday morning, Timmy was eating his breakfast, a giant stack of pancakes dripping with sticky maple syrup hand, piled high with wobbly, jiggly whipped cream. It was a sight to behold, and a mess to create. Syrup dripped onto the floor, forming a sticky puddle. Whipped cream flew through the air as Timmy talked with his mouth full, landing on the cat's head. Pancake crumbs carpeted the floor like a crunchy, golden rug. From his corner, Bristlebert walked. A single bristle on his head twitched. Then another. He had had enough. This wasn't just messy, it was disrespectful to the fine art of eating. As soon as Timmy's mom left the room, Bristlebert sprang into action. With a soft asterisk whoosh asterisk, he started sweeping. He gathered the crumbs into a neat pile. He expertly nudged a stray berry back onto the plate. He tried, with all his might, to bring order to the chaos. Timmy just laughed. He thought it was a funny game. "Look, the broom is dancing," he shouted, and proceeded to knock over his glass of milk. A white river flowed across the kitchen table and cascaded down onto the floor. Right where Bristlebert had just finished sweeping, that was the final straw. A shiver ran up. Bristlebert's wooden handle. His bristles stood on end, crackling with magical energy. He wasn't just a cleaning tool anymore. He was a broom on a mission. He zipped towards Timmy, who was still giggling, and began to sweep around his chair. Faster and faster he went, creating a tiny whirlwind of dust and crumbs. "Ho!" Timmy cried, holding onto the table. But Bristlebert wasn't stopping. He swept with the force of a gentle hurricane. The wind picked up, swirling Timmy's hair and making the curtains dance wildly. Then, with one mighty asterisk sweep asterisk, Bristlebert aimed right for Timmy's feet. Timmy felt himself being lifted off his chair, caught in the magical gust created by the furious broom. "Whoa, what's happening?" he yelped. He was swept out of his chair, across the kitchen floor, and right out the back door, which the magical wind had blown open. He tumbled onto the soft grass of the backyard. Landing in a heap of giggles and surprise, he looked back just in time to see the back door slam shut. He was locked out. Inside, Bristlebert went to work. With no messy boy to mess things up, he cleaned the kitchen until it sparkled. He swept the crumbs, mopped the milk, and even polished the sticky syrup spot until the floor shined like a mirror. He tittied the table, pushed in the chair, and when he was done, he returned to his corner, standing tall and proud. The kitchen was finally, beautifully, peacefully clean. Outside, Timmy sat on the grass. At first, he was annoyed, but then he started to think. He looked at his sticky hands and the jam stain on his shirt. He thought about the river of milk and the flying whipped cream. Maybe, just maybe, his eating habits were a little out of control. The quiet of the backyard gave him time to reflect. It wasn't actually that fun to be covered in food all the time. And seeing the broom get so angry, well, that was a little scary. After about an hour, his mom came looking for him. "Timmy, how did you get out here?" she asked, opening the door. Timmy just shrugged and walked back inside. The first thing he noticed was the kitchen. It was immaculate. It was so clean it practically glowed. He looked over at the broom, standing silently in its corner. It seemed to be watching him. That day at lunch, something amazing happened. Timmy ate his sandwich over his plate. He took small bites. He wiped his mouth with a napkin. He didn't drop a single crumb, not one, when he finished. He even took his plate to the sink. From his corner, Bristlebert the magical broom watched, and if a broom could smile, he would have been grinning from handle to bristle. A single, satisfied twitch was all the celebration he needed. From that day forward, Timmy became the tittiest eater you ever did see. He still loved his food, but he learned that enjoying a meal didn't have to mean creating a disaster zone. He and Bristlebert developed a silent understanding. Timmy kept things clean, and Bristlebert kept the magic to a minimum. And so, the legend of Bristlebert, the magical broom, was whispered among the other cleaning supplies in the cottage. He was a hero who had finally tamed the messiest eater in the world, not with harsh words, but with a mighty gust of wind and a firm, sweeping lesson. And they all lived tittily ever after. The moral of the story, always be nice to your broom, because you never know, it might just be magical. And also, maybe try not to get syrup on the cat. Thanks for watching, everyone, if you enjoyed our story. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more magical tales. See you next time.